This video is for operators evaluating remote recovery tools in real environments. This is not a tutorial and it is not resiliency solution. Comet Pro KVM does not prevent outages and it does not fix broken systems. It only gives you access to systems that are already in a failed state. If you are looking for something that makes your network highly available, this is not it. What this affects is what happens after failure, not where the failure happens. What if the remote system is just dead? You already know what needs to be done, but you can't reach it. The moment is incredibly frustrating, and if you've done any kind of IT at home or at work, you've lived it. People assume you can just log in until the system is stuck in BIOS. At that point, what you really want isn't anything fancy. You want the basics. Show me the screen, let me type, let me fix it. Here's the problem. Most of the tools we rely on only work after the system has fully booted and is already functioning. Remote desktop depends on the system being up. Command line access depends on it too. Any agent-based tool lives on the top of it. So when the system doesn't come up, you lose control. That's where out-of-band management access comes in. Real keyboard, video, and mouse access over the network. This is the Comet Pro IP KVM from GL.iNet. They send it to me, but they don't have saying what I will do in my video. It gives you real control over the system even when the operating system isn't fully booted. This isn't just a convenience tool, it's a failure recovery tool. This is exactly the kind of tool that gives teams false confidence if the underlying system is not designed correctly. At a physical level, Comet Pro sits in line between the system and its display. The computer sends its video signal out. Comet Pro captures that signal and sends it to you. At the same time, Comet Pro captures keyboard and mouse input from you and sends it back to the computer over the USB. The same video feed continues to the local monitor while also being available remotely. That means local work can continue without giving up remote access. Comet Pro expects HDMI input natively. That's the most reliable setup. In my testing, connecting through a VGA to HDMI adapter works as well. You can capture the screen and control the computer without issues. DisplayPort through an adapter also works, but it's less consistent. Sometimes it comes up clean, sometimes it doesn't negotiate correctly and needs to reconnect or reboot. That's not Comet Pro limitation specifically, it's just reality of the DisplayPort adapters and signal negotiation. If you want the most stable experience, native HDMI is the way to go. It also works very well with small systems. Single board computers like Raspberry Pi are a good example. This is especially useful during the initial setup, headless configuration, or when something goes wrong early in the boot process. For labs, test environments, and small infrastructure pieces, this is a very practical use case. Comet Pro doesn't care what you run on a target machine. It doesn't matter where the operating system is installed or whether networking is configured. That's because this is not software running inside the target machine. It's a separate device with its own CPU and its own operating system. From the system perspective, the only thing it needs is the power and the network access to it. That independence unlocks things normal remote tools simply can't do. You can enter the BIOS, fix boot issues, change boot order, select different boot devices, all from the Comet Pro. You can mount ISO images and boot into live recovery environment remotely. Once the system itself stops working, most remote tools are done. This keeps working. Cabling is straightforward. You connect HDMI for video, USB for keyboard and mouse control, and USB for power. But if the system has no power at all, no KVM can help. That's where accessories come in. An ATX power control board or fingerbot lets you power system remotely. That's critical when the system is frozen and even remote input isn't enough. Out-of-band access itself isn't new, but setup has always been painful. You traditionally need network access before you can configure the device. Comet Pro avoids that problem. You power on, enter Wi-Fi credentials locally, and it connects. You don't have to place it next to a switch or run extra network cable just to get started. Wi-Fi 6 simply makes that flexibility better in practice. For secure remote access, Comet Pro supports Tailscale. That gives you encrypted connectivity without exposing ports to the internet. You bind it to your account and access it securely from anywhere. This is not enterprise access control. There are no user roles, no granular permissions, no detailed audit logs. It works very well for home labs, small offices, and individual administrators. It's not designed for large teams with strict compliance or identity requirements. There are also practical limits. Internet storage is limited to 32 GB, where it's usually enough for installers and recovery tools. USB standard is 2.0. File transfers work, installations work. So, Comet Pro is not trying to replace everything you already use. It exists for the moments when nothing else works. And if you've ever lost control of a system at exactly the wrong time, you already understand why that matters. So, the right way to think about the Comet Pro KVM is a narrow recovery aid. It changes how you access systems after they failed. It doesn't change how often they fail, and it doesn't reduce blast radius. Used correctly, it can shorten diagnosis time. Used incorrectly, it can create false confidence. It sits at the edge of recovery, not at the center of resilience.